understand the needs of the community. One of the things that's different of the State Farm agency today, though, than what you traditionally think, most people think of State Farm as an auto insurance company, but we're actually bigger than that. Probably since 2000, we've been involved in the financial service community. Anywhere from banking, mortgages, investments, on helping people in the community do a better job of managing their finance. And so when you think about insurance, people think of it in the traditional way. I always like to say insurance is a financing mechanism, and the new State Farm agencies are really just financial service centers. It's either you want us to finance a loss, we write checks in behalf if you have a loss, but on the other hand, we can help you invest and save for a business you may want to own one day, save for your children's college education, all the way to managing business owners. We insure a lot of small business owners like State Farm in the community. And so we have a breadth of products, which I'll get into later. Really, one of the unique things also about the State Farm opportunity is that we provide a lot of support for somebody who's interested in the opportunity. Unlike other insurance and financial service companies, a lot of them expect the owners to put up a lot of money. Our goal is to put somebody in the community with all intentions of being successful, and we provide that support. One of the things hopefully you guys will learn as, behind all the numbers of State Farm, this is our recently updated numbers. State Farm is still the #1 auto and homeowners insurance company in the United States. Obviously, people know us for auto, but we obviously do a lot of homeowners business. We do life insurance. We do even businesses, as you heard me mention, and health insurance. So again, we have a breadth of insurance products. And one of the other things, again, you can see all these accolades. I'm not going to get into all of them. One of the things that State Farm is really proud about is really taking its diversity and inclusion seriously, and really making sure that when we do hire in our markets, that the owners reflect what the community looks like today. And so you'll see here in 2022, we were awarded the Diversity and Inclusion Award. So again, there's top things there, and even just a great company to work for. What else is going on? Again, it's a great opportunity. I know a lot of our communities are made up of entrepreneurs, and only thing I always share with people is, when you think about entrepreneurs in the United States, they tend to be the wealthiest people in the world. And so it's a good opportunity for somebody to run a business with a great amount of support, unlike when you start on your own. Just the background of myself also, I've only been in this role for 3 years. I was an owner for 14 years in Newark, New Jersey. State Farm asked me to come on because I've done a lot of support for business owners in my own community. Newark, I'm sure you all have heard of, has a huge entrepreneurial community in itself, and I'm sure it is the same in the Bronx and this metro area. So it's, again, a great opportunity that fits to reflect what the community looks like today. And again, I've kind of already hit this. It's a career as a State Farm agent. Again, incredible opportunity, but it does require that we're looking for motivated individuals to align themselves with the company in terms of what our outcome is. And it is a solo agency where you would directly only be selling State Farm products. Outside of that, we do have alliances with Rocket Mortgage. We sell their products. Some big investment companies like BlackRock and Vanguard we have partnerships with, as well as Jackson Annuity, who is a big annuity company, probably the #1 in the United States also. Again, I'm not going to beat this up because I kind of would go overboard, but again, it's just kind of a few reasons why somebody would want to consider an opportunity at State Farm. Obviously, I'm big into, from my own personal belief, I'm really into believing into entrepreneurship. I graduated from college with a mindset that I wanted to own my own business. So this fit in. Excuse me, I came out of college wanting to own a gym. I can't think of, I tried to go for an Orange Theory, so many things like this, but I have a math degree, so I came out in the financial industry, and this was a great opportunity I came from Wall Street, and this was a great opportunity. Why did I pick a city like Newark? When I first came out in 2006, State Farm offered me 12 locations that I could look at. I specifically picked a community was similar to a community that I grew up in. I'm from New York originally, upstate New York, and my mom was a single mom. And I just remember growing up thinking, you know, she was spending a lot of money with people in the community, but they did not provide her the respect of the money she was spending. So I took my financial background and said, I'm going to go in a community where they needed the most. And so that's kind of what my mission was. And I was thankful that State Farm supported that mission and helped me to become a successful owner for 14 years. Again, I'm not gonna, this is kind of repeating of what we do. You get to be a part of the team. One of the things I always share with people is about the success. Why do we want you to be successful? When we look at our competitors, a lot of them say the same thing, but they are not the same. And unfortunately, we've had some people who were gung-ho about the opportunity, but then decided to go with one of our competitors and found out really how much support they were really getting. And some of them actually grew up in agencies. We do have a program where within an agency, they're allowed to, which is called our Agent Aspen program. They begin to learn from a successful owner, develop what it takes to run the agency. And we do a lot of recruiting from those kind of opportunities also. So probably, I want to say at least 10 to 20 in our area have come out of working in an agent's office and led them to an opportunity of becoming an owner. And so again, we pay that owner to develop these candidates and give them the opportunity to see what this business is like. But that is not your only path. If you have enough experience and you're ready to go, I came straight off Wall Street and went straight into ownership. And so it's just many paths to get there. One of the things, again, I love to talk about is that State Farm is in the community. When you think about what it is that our competitors are doing, I remember when somebody was asking me to sponsor something in the community. And then I asked, well, do we have an opportunity to support your business, take your business? And I remember him saying, no, I'm good with the carrier I have. And I was like, the carrier does not donate to the community that you're with. And one of the things that's big about State Farm, they support their agents. They pay for events for the owners to be active and in the community. And so a lot of that is really to encourage the community service part of being an owner. Again, being a State Farm agent, more than 85 million policies in force, dedicated approximately 57,000 or more employees to help you be successful in terms of, you know, our operation and supporting that owner. And one of the things State Farm is well known for, and I always talk about this, everybody can say they're a great company, but at the end of the day, when you pay your premium, you want to know that the company you're behind is going to write the check. That's what it gets down to. If I have a loss, can they have the ability and the financial strength to write the check? And that was one of my reasons. Two things: great customer service, that I know when I talk to somebody in the community that State Farm was going to deliver on what I said they were going to do, and they have the capability to write the check. Here's an example. These are two owners that actually grew up in the Bronx. And so I helped them a lot with this. This was that big Bronx fire that happened. They took it upon themselves because they grew up in the Bronx. And when that fire happened, they ended up gathering all these supplies for everybody and making a huge donation. But it wasn't just the two of them that led this. They ended up getting several agents who grew up in the Bronx around, whether they had ownership in Manhattan, Brooklyn, upstate New York. They got them all to give a donation to help support the people who were impacted by that large fire. So this is a great example of having somebody in the community and knows what's going on. Boots on the ground, as we would say. I'm going to pause here before I get into, I don't think I need to go into this part. I'm going to pause here and see if anyone has questions before I finish up.
I do have a few questions, but I'll wait till the end. Anybody from the committee want to ask a question?
Yeah, actually, when do you plan to begin operations here? Assuming, because I assume you're making this presentation as a way to like maybe get clearance to do get to work here. Am I correct?
Say that again. I'm sorry. It was low. I couldn't hear you.
When are you going to begin work in our community? I mean, assuming you decide you want to take this forward. Do you have a timeline for that?
We are already in the community. I have over 40 owners, and probably, I want to say 15 to 20 of them grew up in this area. A lot of them are from the community. So we've already started that process way back in 2004 or 5 of what I mentioned is making sure that the owners were more a reflection of the community. I'll give an example. One of the owners I just recently hired, he had an ownership in Connecticut. He just opened his second one. And so he was Armenian. And so he came into the area and really wanted to service the community he was in. Some of the other owners I have, like you see there, those two grew up in the area. But I am very mindful of making sure that, you know, given my background, that I want the owners to reflect. And then the second thing that's important to me is I understand entrepreneurship brings wealth, and the company, at least in my area, my AVP is in full support of that. And one of his missions is to make sure that not just because they reflect the community, but he understands that when one State Farm person becomes an owner, 7 other people in their family and friend circles become owners. And so that is a wealth opportunity that he has made a mission before he retires that he wants to see happen. And that's kind of why I took this opportunity. One of the big things about me going into this, as I mentioned, was really trying to help people get their finances together and build wealth from generation to generation. And so when State Farm asked me this, I remembered in 2005 when I first looked at the opportunity and going in that boardroom, no one looked like me, and they were making the ultimate decision whether I was going to be honored as an owner. And so, you know, when this came to me, at first I said, no, why would I do that? Give up my own business? That would be crazy. But then I felt like I needed to put my money where my mouth was really encouraging people to be entrepreneurs. But here I get to have the opportunity to help make that decision and give people the opportunity. So I took it. One of my first owners was a young 27-year-old African-American male. His mother grew up in the Bronx. She has one there, but his is in Yonkers. And so it was a great honor. I've given several owners a second opportunity to own a second location, and they grew up in the area. So there's plenty of owners already that have grown up in this area, and we have been really hard and supportive. Probably one of the highest areas in the United States that have really taken this mission to heart.
And just a brief follow-up. What have you found is perhaps a challenge in doing business in our community with respect to your line of work?
It's probably understanding the level of commitment and priority of finances, I would probably say. It's probably 50-50. So, but I also feel like it's on the owner too, to make sure that it's not just a sale, but it's an education piece, which I take personally responsible. So if you talk to any of my owners, they know that that's one of my passions I bring to the table, is really helping people understand how to build wealth. And so I think that that's hard. And I think the second thing is people don't always transition well into entrepreneurship. You know, they'll see other owners, they visit all these owners and they see where they are on the back end of it, but they don't see the hard work that went in front of it, like the initial 12-hour days. And, you know, you're looking at an owner 5 or 6 years down the road. That's different than what it looks like. Obviously, we still have to go through that uptake of being successful, just like any other entrepreneurship. But I think people come in with the mind, it's State Farm brand. Of course, the brand sells itself, but you have to sell yourself in the community and connect with people and helping them understand why you're there and what's different about you. And I always say the difference is I'm here, I'm in the community. I'm not in some call center down the street. I'm actually here working and investing in a business that's in your community. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And that's the difference of, you know, us versus them. We're here and we're in the community. and working in the community, hiring from the community. And so that's the difference, I think.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much. That's very interesting, because I to be honest, Sana, you're the first one that I've seen that's like kind of a private entity come in and talk to us, the Business Development Committee, which is great. And now when you speak of
I will
owners,
share with you, I work
yeah,
closely with Newark's business development department. I actually insured them. So we just insured it as if it was a bank. And I worked closely with Lanier Richards when he was the CEO of Brick City Development at the time. I don't know what they changed the name to now, but I'm used to that part of it. And, you know, like I said, a big part of my business was working with other business owners in the community. I did a lot of delivery on, you know, helping business owners develop business plans, which is kind of what my role is today. I was a consultant before this. So that's the other reason why State Farm came after me, is I was a consultant also on Wall Street of helping people understand how to create vision and strategy around developing a business.
that's awesome. So when you, and then I'm sorry, this is more of a clarifying question. When you speak of owners, are owners of like brick and mortar State Farm agencies,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
branches, or is it like,
Uh-huh.
or is it kind of like just licensees that are selling the insurance or products? Are you?
No, so I own the brick and mortar location. I can either own the building or lease like any other business owner. I have a few that own their own space. The one you see in that picture, one of them owns his own space on Third Avenue in the Bronx. So they could own their own space. It just depends on where they are on the budget. A lot of them eventually try to own a building just for long-term cost cutting. So yes, that they own the brick and mortar, how they run their business, as long as they're in compliant with all the regulations, we don't really tell them. Like I have some that are 50% virtual and 50% in place, but they still have a physical location in place, which is kind of what we say our competitive advantage is. We're trying to be still in the community and not virtual.
Okay, that's great. And maybe I can ask some of the other questions after you finish. So I'll let you finish, and I have about 4 questions, and I'll open it up to the committee to ask questions as well.
Okay, so I'll just kind of real briefly it is a 17-week program. It could be a little longer. We do expect when we're recruiting these candidates, we do assess whether they could potentially be successful. So there is some screening that goes into this because we invest so much in this program. This 17-week is actually a paid internship. They get paid while they're learning our products, learning what our processes are, and we give them a sign-on bonus as they meet milestones during this time period. The reason why I say it could be longer is we recently went back to requiring you to have your investment license. There was a pause after the fiduciary liability law came out under Obama, and then Trump overturned it. And so there was a big pause on how that regulation was going to impact our business. And New York ended up picking it up. It is called the best interest rule. So New York does support that legislation that came out. And so we are now back in place of understanding that regulation. And it applies across not just financial products, it now applies across insurance products. And that regulation is Regulation 187 in New York. And it just says our owners have to do what's in the best interest of the client. And so one of those things we're requiring them to do now that's different is they had investment licenses, but now we want them to get their financial advisor license. So if somebody comes in and doesn't have any of the licenses for that part, we will add the additional 9 weeks for them to get it, and we pay for it. If they do come in with it, we give them a bonus. We just give them the cash to, because they came in with it. And so that's what I mean by when I look at this opportunity. And even when they open, they get another bonus. So again, our goal is to make you successful. So a lot of times, I guess back to your question, Carl, is I think people take for granted that they don't understand. I guess if you don't have anything to compare it to, how much we're investing in making sure you're successful. We're not trying to open a location. We have a marketing analyst that tells us exactly where we think somebody could be successful. And we look at the growth in that market. We look at the opportunity and say, this is potentially where somebody could be successful. Let's get an opening in that location. We also have opportunities. Sometimes owners also retire, by the way, and they turn in everything. And so those are also opportunities we have. So when you look at it, some of the big things we're looking at, just high level, is obviously entrepreneurial traits. That typically aren't unique to State Farm. Personal effectiveness, obviously, when you're dealing with people and money, we want to know that you're dealing with honest people who are going to do right by the community. So obviously that's important to us. Managing the business, obviously, to your question of it's the owner. Most of the time, the owner is acting as an owner. They may do the financial parts of it, but the day-to-day operation, I'll give an example again. I had 9 people working for me in my location in Newark. And so I really focused in on business owners, the business development of Newark. I ensured the tourism board of Newark. Like, I was really out there networking with people who were in the community so they understood the value of what I was doing. The day-to-day of whether an auto gets covered or not was my team. And so I really sat down with people and talked about financial planning and how do you invest your money? How do you make sure you protect what you have? And doing overall check-ins with the customers to make sure once they're in and they're doing business with me, do they understand you purchased a home? This home is a big asset, and it's one of the first fundamental things of building wealth, right? So do you understand what it takes to make sure that asset passes on to your children? You know, Newark is a huge renting community, and we have some of that similarity over here. So a lot of time my owners get frustrated with me because they're like, well, I don't know if that'll work. I'm like, come on, I was in Newark. It's the same demographics. So I'm not talking to you like as if I don't understand this community. It is the same. People prioritize what is important to them. Your goal and job should be to make sure they understand that not everybody's going to do it. But I used to joke with them all the time, like, listen, at the end of the day, you got to own a property. I'm not telling you to leave Newark. I'm asking you to buy a property here, and that influence revenue in this community, right? If you're paying taxes, at the end of the day, you have influence on what happens in the community. Right now, we have a bunch of people who own properties that are not vested in the community because they don't live here, right? They want low taxes at minimum as possible, and they don't necessarily care what actually happens in the community. I'm asking you to buy a house in this community. How can I help you get there? I'm asking you to buy a business in this community. And then if you can't do it, I'm asking you to make a plan for your children to do it. How can we make that happen? And that's kind of where I try to coach from my owner's perspective coming in, and that's my background. And you can see I'm passionate about it. So that's kind of how I lead and recruit. I'm looking for somebody who has that same mindset. And I just don't want any average person here. I want somebody who's passionate and cares and can lead a team to make a difference. At the end of the day, that's kind of what this opportunity is about. It's building a business that makes a difference. And again, I always say to my owners, the difference between you and our competitors is that you're here, that you can actually have somebody talking to you that's not some random person in some call center. You could actually call back and ask for Zanetta, Carl, Joelle. You can call back and ask for me, and I will be there, and I will be the person that represents this brand at the end of the day. And that's really, I think, about all.
All right. This is great. Honestly, I didn't know that it was more than just insurance, to be honest. It's good to hear, especially coming from, I work for JP Morgan, and as a financial services professional, it's interesting to say that State Farm is one of the players. I didn't really think about that. So just I have a few questions, and I'll open it up to the board. So let's start with the 17-week program. Is that how many spaces are available, and is it just for ownership or to be a representative within one of your locations?
So remember, when you're a representative, you work for the owner, you don't work for State Farm. So those 9 people reported to my corporation. I had a corporation behind my business, so they did not report to State Farm. And it is made clear to them they worked for the ZD Glover Insurance and Financial Services Inc. company. That's who their paycheck was paid on. When I'm in that internship, I become an employee of State Farm, but only those 17 weeks. After that, it's all commission, and I'm paid based on what I sell. Now we do, when I talk about success, this is probably going to be surprising. A lot of our owners, when they become owners, we either give them 2.1 million in assignment, which generates about 210,000 in income to start. And if we don't give them anything and they start from zero, we give them sales benchmarks that still represent that same amount of income. So when I say we want you to be successful, we want you to be successful. So even if you start with nothing, we support you until you build a book of business. And as long as you hit our sales targets, which aren't that hard, you will, most of my owners in this area hit the targets. I have probably 4 that started scratch and they hit those targets every month.
Okay, good. Awesome. I have another question. So in terms of licensing, or is it just life and health, or is it like a financial services from FINRA, 7 or 6 or 63? What type of licenses are necessary for them?
So part of the process that I kind of skipped over really quickly is to just even look at a State Farm opportunity. We have a bank that shows you, like, once you get approved to be which we call site interview ready, meaning like you're ready to apply for a location. You get to see every opportunity in the whole United States. You can apply anywhere you want. Most owners, people who are applying, typically build relationships with people like myself. I think we have 3 in Long Island. There's 1 in Queens, like myself, 1 that covers the Bronx, Staten Island, and Manhattan. And then, like I said, I have the Bronx, part of Manhattan. I have Harlem all the way up to Scarsdale. And so we have several people in my role that help with that opportunity. What was your other question? Sorry.
The licenses.
Oh, the licenses is property and casualty. Obviously, in order to sell auto and business owners and homeowners insurance, you have to have your property and casualty license. Then it's life and health. And then the series under FINRA, that's the part where I said we may add 9 weeks. So the Series 6 needs a sponsor, you know that, Joel. You don't need it for the 63 and the 65. And now the SIE. So prior to you even being able to look at the opportunity, we do require property, casualty, life and health, and the SIE. And that's because FINRA requires that before you get the 6 now. That's new, fairly new. It wasn't around when I did it. And then the 63 and the 65 are the additional ones that you need. The 6, 63 and the 65 are the ones we add the 9 weeks for. The SIE, you have to have it before you can even look at an opportunity, along with all the insurance licenses.
Yeah, because the SIE doesn't need a sponsor. So that's good to know for anybody who's interested in this opportunity. And I kind of wanted to maybe talk a little bit about, and maybe this is for someone who's interested. You mentioned that they have, financial services for businesses. These owners. What kind of programs or opportunities for business owners do you have? Do the owners have after they complete the program and they open up their location? What type of services does maybe like a local State Farm brick and mortar store offer? I know you mentioned lending. I know you mentioned financial services, business planning. Is this specific to one branch, or do multiple branches have these type of services?
Most of the branches that have been out since 2004, I think, is under this new contract where you need to do financial services. Older ones probably before that, maybe going back to 1990, they have some financial service responsibility, but it impacts them. So they do the financial services. Prior to that, most of the older owners will not necessarily, they'll be strictly insurance agents. So I would say that the last 25 to 30 years, it has now been more of a financial center, and that's the direction they're going in. When I talk about supporting business owners, we do the insurance on the business. We do 401ks. We do group life insurance. We have health products. So we support a business owner just the way anybody else would. And again, one of the things that we have the advantage of is that we're in the community and we understand. And we also do lending. Our partnership, we did have a bank up until I think the bank started in 1998 and probably just got rid of it right during COVID. We shut it down at the end of 2020 only because we were running into some problems and wanted to stick to our core. And, you know, when you think about growth, you got to think, does it make sense to use your own resources or complete an alliance? And so we went with US Bank as one of our alliances and they do business loans for business owners. And so, yes. The other thing with our business owners specifically, to answer, you know, how do we help them become successful? When they're an employee, they also become a part of State Farm's credit union. The credit union also offers them a line of credit. It can be anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 to help them. And then US Bank usually also gives them a line of credit via a credit card to help them be successful. So it's not a one set amount for an owner. Like I typically, you know, I was extremely aggressive when I came out. So I said, don't use me as an example. My business goal was to double the book of business in 2 years. So I spent $90,000. I had billboards over the highway. I was going all out. And so, but it doesn't require a business owner to do that. No, you're an entrepreneur. How fast do you want to grow? You really have to determine that, and how much are you going to invest to do that? For me, I quit a job on Wall Street. I wasn't taking 5 years to figure it out. I had about 3 years in me to make back what I had given up. It was a big risk. But my thought was I could always go get a job. I can't always have an opportunity to own my business. And that was my mindset. Like I got knowledge, which is also a form of wealth. I believe that education is a form of wealth that wouldn't go away because I took this risk. If anything, it would have built my resume, even if I failed.
That's right. I agree. I mean, most of our business owners think that way, right? You're into business, you have to take obviously calculated risk. So how does one get started, right? What's the first step?
You would talk to somebody like myself or Maria, who is a recruiter for State Farm. Typically, State Farm would prefer that they talk to somebody like myself because I am in the community and I know what my owners are going through. So if somebody's interested in this area, they typically would prefer you talk to the sales leader. I do have recruitment responsibility. Their preferred method is I bring them in and turn them over to the recruiter and get them through the process. But we do have recruiters like Maria that will start with them, and then she then introduced them to me so that and everybody in my role, by the way, was an owner. So you cannot be in this role unless you were an owner. And that's kind of why they would prefer that you talk to somebody like myself who went through the process of what ownership looks like. And then I typically, most of my owners, people I'm looking at, I have them visit several owners so that they know what they're getting into. And the good thing that is also different, and I'm not just bragging, if you ask me anything, I'll be honest, if you can't figure that out. Most of the owners at State Farm, which is a unique thing, is they have this whole attitude, and it could be cultural, like there's enough business for everybody. They really do want to see somebody succeed. And so they feel like there's enough business. And if you listen to what they have to say, they're going to help you be successful. Another good example is that I think it's like 15 of the owners just completed a program that they're going to sponsor at Pace. So they're going to help students who want to become entrepreneurs or interested in this opportunity. So they're going to have a whole center over at Pace where they're going to actually help students there figure out how do they get into this opportunity. And even if they don't, they're going to talk to them about entrepreneurship, and they're using their own money to do that. State Farm is going to match. They're committed to whatever they donate. They're got to donate it for the next 5 years, and State Farm will match that for the next 5 years. They're determined to really, like I said, a lot of them have become owners because somebody sponsored them in another agency. So they really believe in that process because that's how they had this opportunity. Somebody believed in them and gave an opportunity as an employee working in an agency and saw something in them and invested in them and gave them the opportunity to become an owner.
Okay, great. I got 2 more questions and I'll open it up to the floor. My second to last question is there an initial investment to become an owner, and what does it look like?
There's no franchise fee. So really, it's really, you have to do a business plan. So part of that process, I probably should say, is getting licensed is one part of it. You're also working from somebody from corporate that's walking you through how to successfully write a business plan. Most of my owners, when I'm working with them and they're going through this process, I'm checking in with them because I always say the business plan is a roadmap. I need you to make sure you're not just putting a check in a box, that you just have a business plan. Most likely corporate will take it, but the reality is when you get stuck and you're trying to figure out what strategy do I take if that didn't work, I need you to have a bunch of ideas that you said that you were going to commit to trying. To, if you get stuck and that didn't work and you get in the real world, what's alternative B? What else can you do to still hit what you want to do and what you said your vision and mission is? So for me personally, I'm there along the way, and most of my peers are the same way. They're there talking to you as you're going through this process. So part of, for you to get also in there, is you have to complete a business plan along with the financial numbers. How does that help you become successful? You already have an outline of a business plan. So when you go to apply for an opportunity, you may be doing one, let's say you may say you want Mount Vernon, but really the opportunity came up in, I don't know, Scarsdale, I'm making it up, or Yonkers. You just have to pivot that business plan that you already physically have completed and really now change it to the market opportunity that's out there. And so again, that's something that's rare that you'll see, that we're trying to make sure you know how to present yourself. So you have to present that business plan to corporate before you even can see the opportunities too. And then when you see those opportunities, you're just quickly turning that business plan around to fit the one you're actually applying for.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And my last question is around philanthropic kind of opportunities that the owners have. Do they have a representative that or a district representative in our area that donates to not-for-profits or kind of runs programs? Do you kind of
Yep.
have like a person, a point person for that in our district?
We do. She, I worked closely with her. She actually represents this whole area. I loved her because she would do all these community things and she'd say, okay, we need an owner to come out, and I would come out to all of them, whether it was I was in a school. There's grants that are given. I know Newark came up for finals maybe 3 times on the program, and it was like a $25,000 donation to a nonprofit organization. And so I would encourage, because I insured a lot of nonprofits, I would encourage them to apply. So most of the owners know about that. They also are encouraged, like we had one owner, believe it or not, he sponsored a baseball team. And so he was really passionate about making sure girls knew how to play baseball. And he's an owner in the Bronx. He has 2, but his wife just recently became an owner, and 2 of her sisters are owners, all in the area, all grew up in the Bronx. And so they all got together. He got owners from Brooklyn to kind of chip in, and then he got some of his other peers to chip in. And that's kind of what I mean by, if there's something that's really they're passionate about, they tend to bring the other owners along to take care of whatever cause it is. And then a lot of times the company match that. I give a good example. When I was in Newark was big on housing development, and they would have a summer music festival. And because that money was going to help develop houses in Newark, I made my donation and State Farm matched it. I think I gave $10,000 and State Farm matched it for sponsorship for that program. So if it is in alignment of what State Farm wants, they'll definitely sponsor it. The agents have funds where the company do sponsor them every year for events they do in the community. And it ranges from anything from, I've seen people make donations for food, and the company sponsors that, up into this one for the Bronx fire. They just did that on their own. They didn't even involve the company or inform the company. And I think they raised over 20,000 or something on gift cards, and created baskets for people who were impacted by that, and partnered with the mayor of the Bronx to get those donations out there.
Awesome. So can you you can forward it to me, the contact info for that, just in case any of our business owners or not-for-profits want to go out there and the local owners want to support that. And I encourage all the committee members to get the word out about this program. It's definitely for someone who's driven, who's an entrepreneur, but it looks like a great opportunity for someone who's willing to work for it. But thank you so much, Zeta. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Let me open up the floor, see if anybody has any questions. Anybody from the committee has any questions? I know I took up a large chunk there. Anybody? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Zanetta.
I have a
Really
question.
appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, thank you so much for this
How are you?
presentation. I'm
No
Emily.
problem.
Sorry, I was like getting back home from the outside world and it's very cold. So I think this is amazing because I always hear about people that have ideas within the community that would like help in like well-being and just making the community feel more whole and have safe spaces. And I feel like that's something that we lack. Like people are always like, oh, I wish there was like a group for elders that did activities, you know, whatever throughout the week because they're retired, but we don't see too much of that in Harlem, Washington Heights, or something like that. So I'm not too sure if, I know I'm like rambling, but if you've seen any challenges in terms of like finding a property, because you said that these owners have to find a property in a community, finding a property here in Upper Manhattan with the rates that we have now and like inflation and all of that. I'm not sure if maybe that's something that's discouraging people.
It is. I was recently trying to open one in Harlem, and that was probably the biggest challenge is that, like I said, we have marketing analysts that tells us whether they're going to be successful or not. And probably one of the biggest challenges is the expense in Harlem to overcome what they would get. There's not a lot of cars in Manhattan, but we do have a lot of owners over there. I have one that's there, Julio Tejada, Ray Polanco, both grew up in that area. And so they're in that Washington Heights area. I also have another one of the sisters I mentioned that there's three of them. Jules Santiago, she's also in that area. So there's several owners over there that, and then Linda Bruchette, and I think I want to say there's 8 owners in that area that we have. So they are there. Some of them just have been owners longer before this inflation issue happened. So yes, I have been trying for the last 3 years to get one in Harlem, but part of it is the return on the investment. I came in COVID, and so part of my challenge is looking at the expense of opening over there.
So do you think that it wouldn't be a good idea for someone to like find a property now in Harlem, Washington Heights area if they wanted to build some kind of a philanthropic business? Or, I mean, I think it could be like philanthropic, but still have some kind of a return if that works. Because I don't know how businesses work actually, you know, like with the LLC and the 501c3 and all that. Like, I don't know any of that. So I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
We wouldn't necessarily be the ones opening a philanthropic, we would support one. So yeah, I'm talking from a State Farm. Yeah. One of the things I'm kind of evaluating is potentially one of my other options is to give another owner a second location because they already have the money to be able to invest in that kind of space. Like the guy, Julio Tejada, that's in Washington Heights, I gave him another one in Throsneck. So yes, it's expensive, but he's already been an owner for, I think, 15 years now. So for him to open a second location, he had the ability to invest in a second one. So that may be the route I have to take versus a new owner coming out and starting from scratch may not have the equity or the financing to do that. So there's many different ways we may get there, but we are invested in that community. Like I said, I want to say we have 7 owners over that way. There are owners in Harlem. It's not that we don't have them, they're there. It's just that, you know, would I like to have another one? Yes.
Yeah, and I also
And
asked,
I do have candidates that are interested. It's just that, again, I look at the return on my investment. I need to make sure that that person feels like they could be successful too.
right, yeah, I completely understand. One of the reasons I asked too is because I was kind of wondering what kind of businesses or patterns you've seen of the types of businesses that do succeed in places like Harlem and Washington Heights. In case there is a pattern you see, like maybe certain businesses don't really pick up at all in this area, but others do. Or
I
it just
can't say
depends
that
the
I'm an
person.
expert on.
Yeah.
I could tell you the type of people that tend to succeed at business. It's not like complicated. It's really like, when, I hate to say it, shit hits the fan, they're gonna get it done. And that's at the end of the day. Who do I look for like that? Typically people who've either been in some kind of leadership role tend to do well. I look at some of the owners that do struggle. They'll get there because I support them, but if they didn't have leadership roles or they didn't work in the financial industry, they tend to struggle a little bit more because I don't know. I look at people who came from the financial industry like myself, they tend to have the grit because they've been working in this and they know what it takes. Even when they were working for somebody, you're probably working the same amount of hours. At the end of the day, I remember when I was making exactly what I made on Wall Street, and I was kind of like, well, even if I never make any more money, I own my own business and I'm free. So in that mindset, of course, I still wanted to make more, but I look at a lot of the people that grew up in my community, in our communities, I just say it's grit. And when stuff hits the fan, you got to be able to lead your team. You can't be sitting there talking about it's not fair. Like, you made an investment. There's nobody telling you what to do. You got to solve the problems, which I probably would say is the other thing. Be a problem solver, be strategic, and have grit. That's what it's going to take at the end of the day. I don't care what business it is. A lot of times people don't, and I would probably say they don't have that business plan down tight. They did not really think through all the finances of it. Like, I look at owners and I'm like, listen, and that's where I come in. I'm like, you're not going to make it with that kind of, plan. Like, where's the money coming from? Like, I remember a young man saying his biggest part of the finance was his stepdad's credit card. I'm like, your stepdad controls that money. Like, that's not a good plan, because stepdad could get pissed off at you and now you don't have a line of credit. What's plan B? Because I'm not going to put somebody out there. And of course, he got pissed. He went and got another opportunity and they gave him a low barrier to get in, and he didn't make it. Because it doesn't matter. You still need the same amount of money, whether you do it here or there. I'm just keeping it realistic. And he must not have really had that line of credit because he didn't make it. Which is what my instinct told me. Like, you can't just think you deserve it. He did come up through the internship program in an agent's office, and so it didn't work out. I still thought he had a lot of opportunity, and I probably would have hired him. I just felt like he needed more development and come up with more financing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate the questions. So just a reminder.
But Joel, that'll probably answer. Can I just say, to answer your question, there is no
Sure.
set amount that we have. There's no franchise fee. I've seen people start as low as 25,000, but they curtail what their location looks like, right? So they may have a smaller space. They're on a second floor and they figure it out till they build it. So there's no set amount, going back to your question, because that triggered what Emily was saying to me. I don't know if I answered that. Like I said, I've seen people spend as high as myself, if not more. We have some owners, they just go all out. They've been working, and so they have the finance to do it, and they'll do it. So where I have some, the great news is I hired a 26-year-old. Well, how much money did you think he had? He didn't have a lot. So he went for it, and he's hugely successful in Yonkers. At 26, 27, he started. He's making a lot of money for a young kid, so he's happy. So I think it's just really but what's the difference of him? He has grit. He wanted it. I didn't think that, at 26, I would give it to him. I thought he was still young. He had only worked in his mother's agency, didn't have a whole lot of experience. But, when he came into the interview, he proved me wrong. And he ended up, my gut was I was going to give it to somebody else. He came in, I told him, I put pressure on him, no lie, you're my first hire. I need you to succeed. And he did it. So at the end of the day, I saw something in him, and I was glad I made that choice and not the other one. So it happened to be the young man that was using his father's line of credit, stepdad's line of credit, and I didn't think he was going to make it, which proved that I was right, that this kid would be the right choice.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. It's always the ones that gotta work a little harder that tend to succeed. But thank you so much again, Azneta. Please just remind everyone of your precision, and just your email address, just in case we want to contact you, if we know anybody who can, be referred to you.
Yeah, and I'm also open. I know Newark used to, at the business development, they used to have entrepreneurial days and they would have us come in and speak. I'm also available for that. I'll put my information in the chat. My role again is a sales consultant. So again, I manage 40 owners in my market. And so some of our people in our role manage 50. It can go up to 60 owners that they're managing. So because we are a highly dense population, mine's is a little smaller. So, but again, our goal is to really and our goal is actually at this point is to make bigger owners. We're not backing down from this model. This is where State Farm is investing. And again, when you hear our advertisement, think about what we're saying to you. Hopefully it'll resonate a little bit better that we're talking about being more personable. In the days of AI, I always say to my owners, the difference is you're actually talking to somebody. You are the difference. Like, I'm tired. I call centers and I'm like, which button was I supposed to press again? So it's good when it's something quick, but it's bad when you're in a big financial situation and this is the person you decided to give your business to and you got to go through a call center and keep explaining yourself. The difference is that these people will know who you are because you're doing business with them locally.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I will forward that info if you guys could take it on the chat. Thank you so much again. It's definitely informative.
And you have my email information. I think it was sent in an email. I'm not sure who has it, but there is my email information.
I got it.
Okay.
But thank you again. Just to move the agenda along, I want to also give an opportunity to Carl. I don't know if you were able to speak to the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment and presentation to give a kind of a presentation of the program that you're outlining when it comes to comedy and this comedic forum. So Carl, thank you so much. Thank you. So yeah, Carl, are you there? I don't know if he's there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Were you able to get the representative from the mayor's office?
Actually, we spoke, and I thought I sent you like an email with some update about the latest development. He finally decided he was kind of short-staffed at this time, and he wouldn't be able to supply the services he was thinking he might be able to supply. But the thing is, though, he wasn't part of my original plan. I only reached out to him because he said he might like to have somebody come to address us. But so that was the only reason I reached out to him. But it turns out he won't be able to assist because he's short-staffed and all that kind of stuff. Then he said, well, perhaps in the future, but I can always bring somebody else, but I don't think it's necessary. I already have the plan mapped out. The only reason I thought about these people was because you suggested,
Okay.
So, but
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so the plan is mapped out in terms of what the panel is actually like. It will be like a moderated panel. That will be the centerpiece of the event. A moderated panel that is diverse, has like because it's entrepreneurial and career oriented. We'd have somebody who maybe one person, maybe a comedy club owner, and then maybe somebody who is a a comedy school proprietor, then maybe an actual comedian, and maybe somebody who works on a show. So the comedy is like a whole big part of stuff. It's not just stand-up comedy. It has branches, you know, like says, it's got sketch. What is in Saturday Night Live? It's got improv. Then it's got, stand-up, obviously. And, it's got other branches. So then it's got sitcom, of course. So, it's a whole thing, a whole industry with divisions. So it's a whole career path and entrepreneurial, aspect of stuff. So I'll bring folks, the idea is to have them expose these various avenues of comedy to the audience, both those who want to take it as a career for themselves, or those who want to run businesses, take the entrepreneurial track. So that's basically what the panel will be, and it will be moderated, of course. And then I was thinking about maybe also, because it's a comedy thing, have some little presentation, have some comedians come and do some stand-up bits, to like, spice up the situation and, engage the audience a bit more. So, and then we're thinking about like maybe having this forum sometime, like in May sometime, like the middle of May, because I was talking about maybe like April, but Francisco suggested it would probably be better sometime in May to give us time to like sort out all other kinds of stuff, And then, oh, by the way, we already ran the plan by Francisco and I. We were at this party the other time, I think Friday, where they said meet your community board members. An event we held at Chella's, like around the corner, 159 on Broadway. So at that event, Francisco and I were able to run the idea by Catherine Diaz, and she was cool with that. She said she was happy about the idea. She said it was a good plan, and she said to reach out to her with any kind of need we might have, anything in terms of resource that she'd be able to provide us with anything we need. So yeah, she encouraged us to reach out to her as needed. And he also talked about like, oh, by the way, we might perhaps it might be good to also have like a resource guide. Like you talked about having a resource guide kind of situation. So I think perhaps we could also develop a resource, like a small booklet with a directory of comedy clubs and comedy schools and those kinds of things that might assist folks who are looking to break into the game. So yeah, so that's how we're thinking about it now for the moment. But the guy at the mayor's office, I don't really believe, I'm not sure what role to assign, those kinds of people in the scheme that we are developing. So I think we're okay for now, but if anything should change and we maybe need to reach out to those kinds of people, which I don't foresee, but if it happens, yeah, of course, we will reach out to them. But I think we're okay the way we have it now. We just need to get going, to start lining up the kinds of people we need. Maybe actually, in terms of venue, I think we can probably do the thing at the place where we had the cannabis event the other time. I think it's a large enough space. Yeah.
What place was that?
I think the community board building, 530, 66, or 166.
Okay. Now, Carl, what we can do is here's what we can do. So kind of I want to hear the thoughts of the other committee members on regarding this this event. So let's because I really want to get like I understand the concept of it, which I am on board. I spoke to Kathy, actually, the chair today. We spoke a little bit about kind of broadening the scope instead of just, and I want to hear your opinion as well, Carl, here on this one. Instead of just including comedians in this forum, why don't we include all freelancers, right? And this includes artists of all types, you know, of all talents. But we can include in this forum. And what do you think about that? I also want to hear the opinions of the committee in terms of this event.
Yeah, if you say freelancer, what kind of freelancers are you talking about?
So freelance in the sense of artists, right? It can be singers, dancers, painters, all types of artists and freelancers. Just to not limit on one on one aspect, right? To kind of broaden our scope.
Well, well, you seem to be talking about like the whole. You know, I think it's more like a career fair too. You know, a fair dedicated to something. I mean, currently it's already. This is already expansive enough. If you're talking about like folks who, I mean, we have a theme already that we're pursuing. If these folks can be fit into the theme, that might work. But I don't know how we can fit in artists and musicians and comedians. I don't know. It becomes a bit too general. We could lose focus on this. You understand what I'm saying? Of
I'm
course.
sorry, can y'all just clarify what this forum, like the purpose of it is? And
so this is what I'm so basically here's what I was going. So what I would suggest, if you want to narrow in and have a small scope, I suggest what we do is kind of get a
Joel.
Yeah, go
Hey
ahead.
Joel. I'm sorry to cut you off. Can you just set the tone for like what Carl initially wanted, and then also like go into like what you wanted, so that way we have like some insight? Because I'm kind of lost as well.
No, so basically initially what Carl wanted was a comedic forum to kind of shed light on comics, right? Do invite comedians, put on an event where there's a few comedians that can talk about the business of comedy. I don't know exactly, and this is what we're trying to figure out now, exactly what the purpose of the event is. Is it going to be a career fair, right, where we invite, or is it going to be a panel, right? So this is where I was going with this.
Oh.
Is it something, and I'm kind of confused myself exactly on what the kind of the outline of the event is going to be. So maybe you can shed some light on that, Carl.
Yeah, initially it was going to be a fair, career fair, and it is still kind of like a career fair to encourage entrepreneurship in a different way, and career path for people who want to consider that kind of path, because comedy has become a big business today. We have a lot of young people in this community who might be looking for those kinds of opportunities. We've been talking lately about like opening up marijuana sales as a new line of business. In other words, we have begun to think outside the box. So this is another thing along those lines, like thinking outside the box on an entrepreneurial kind of way. And so it's also like a fair for the most part, a career fair. And if you want to bring in, the folks who will be there on the panel, for instance, I'm thinking about maybe somebody who actually runs a comedy club, for instance, somebody who runs a comedy school, ways to like encourage entrepreneurship and career consideration with these things. And then somebody who actually is a comedian, who works as a comedian, hopefully somebody who's quite successful at the game that could inspire people thinking about that career path, and maybe somebody who works on a show.
I was trying to and here's what I was trying to allude to. So in a career fair, I think, in my opinion, I think that there's a broadened range of paths, right?
Okay.
So you're artistic, or rather a career fair, I think it would be, because not everybody be interested in like comedy, right? There'd be people who are interested in other types of things. So maybe we can do a career fair, yeah, of course, but of different of a broader range, right?
Okay.
Not just comedy, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But comedy is definitely, yeah, comedy is definitely something that I agree that is a rising field, but in content creation. But I think that what do you think about that, right? Broadening our field and creating kind of a career fair along those lines.
All right, a career fair. Okay, so I just told you what a career fair would be. Like we could also prepare, like a career guide on the side to help folks who are thinking about this kind of work. And then,
Hey, Carl,
Yeah,
and Joel, I was gonna
yeah,
add, why don't we do a career fair, but focus it down the lens of media and entertainment, so that way both of you guys can achieve what you want.
yeah, and exactly. That's kind of what we're going with. So how about yeah, because that's something that is what we want to do, right? We want to kind of broaden that lens.
okay,
Hector and go both, because Carl was kind of like just focused on the comedy section of it, but I think there's multiple things that we can take advantage of.
okay.
And so Carl, why don't for next meeting, why don't we come up with what we want to see here in this career fair, right? So you mentioned the comedy club owners, right? Definitely someone we want to have in this career fair. Why don't we do also like content people, content creators, or dance studio owners? Because I know there's a couple dance studios in our district that could come to this career fair, that could talk about their work and invite people to come and join them. So let's come up with a list, Carl, of people who you think could benefit from a career fair, like a comedy club owner, or someone who you could really think of, so that we can kind of organizing people, and so maybe earmark a day and a venue next month to invite them and also invite the community. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. You mean like when we stage the event, then we'll invite the community, and then these people we're talking about. Is that what you said?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, exactly. Those people that need, or rather want employees, to come in and kind of showcase what, and it can range from artists, and this goes for the committee as well. Anybody that you think that, a dance studio, a comedy club, a theater, anything that is in the arts, or in that scope, that we can come and invite them to this career fair. I think is a good idea. I think that Carl was right when it comes to this emerging field. But I think that by broadening the scope, I think we can reach more people.
Hey, Joel, the idea
Yeah.
sounds great, and I'm not sure if Carl referenced this earlier, but where are you guys planning to have this event at? And
So
you said late May, correct?
yeah, so we'll probably have to push it, Carl, just so we can get just because we're broadening the scope, it probably needs a little bit more planning. It's probably going to be in June. I would probably push it to. And Carl mentioned the place that we had our the meeting in, and I'm thinking he's talking about the Alianza building on 166.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, I think, which I don't know if we know where that building is at. Hector, do you know? You know where that building is at?
Where Malcolm X?
No, not there. It's around that area. Yeah, right around the hospital. I'll send you the address, but I think it's a good platform, or rather a good venue for us to have that event. Just because that's a shared space with the community.
Right. Is it possible we can have an outdoor event? I know it's
Okay.
going to be a summertime, and we might be
Say it
able to
again.
leverage. Is it possible we can have an outdoor event to leverage the weather?
Why don't we?
Yeah.
Well,
Say it again.
all right. You realize there'll be a panel, a moderated panel, correct?
So I was thinking more. It wouldn't be so much a panel, but rather just that people can go around table by table, kind of talking to different business owners.
It will completely lose the focus. I don't know what you're describing at this point. I mean, if it has to have some focus, and then you can also have a table where they can go to. I mean, the panel is not gonna go more than an hour, and then there'll be hopefully a reception, and then there'll be tables and stuff that people can like go to get some stuff, books, and but it has to have a core. It has to have a core. A core, a theme, a core, and then other bells and whistles can follow. But it can't just be anything to everybody. It has to be something focused a bit.
So here's what we were talking about. I'm sorry, Emily, I'll call on you in a second. Because a career fair, the career fair I've been to, it's usually a venue, and you go to different tables learning about each of the prospective businesses. Now, if you want to structure an event around a panel, I think we're doing something a little bit different. And correct me where I'm wrong. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, I'm still like a little bit confused about like because I understand you expanding it past comedy. I didn't know let's say maybe I'm antisocial, that there was such a hard pull for comedy in the community. So to do just like a panel for comedians or that kind of position, it would probably be too narrow of narrow. So then that's why I do see like you expanding it. But then if you're going to get a panel, you have to think about who you're going to invite, who's going to do the outreach for these people, if they could all coordinate for the same date. And if you are doing a panel, that I do also agree, like maybe it could be mixing of like what a career fair is and a panel somewhere in the itinerary. Maybe if it's like big enough, because you also have to think, okay, who wants to get involved in this event? The people that want to get involved in this event, like, how many tables we're going to have, the resources that are going to be provided, and all of that. So I think I've just never seen something like this in my life. That's why I can't even imagine it. And
it's not, it's a new way of thinking about this, and it can work. We are thinking about business development. We are trying to go beyond the well-trodden path. When we think of business development, we don't want to just think about mom and pop stores and gyms and telephone company locations and stuff. We also want to think about growing trends, the way we could like think of business in a different way. Recently we've been talking about marijuana sales and things. It's not a traditional line of business. These are new things that are growing as new ideas are coming up and people are thinking of things in different ways. This is a brand new idea, and it's not going to be like something totally familiar to all of us, something we could readily recognize. It's just something we could, like innovate around. Like we had this cannabis panel the other. It was more of a panel. Then it was also very informational. People had a panel, some kind of moderation, and then there were other things on the side. Folks who had other events to advertise, or if you have like a resource guide we could provide for folks who want to consider that line of work. So it's that's kind of what the core would be. introducing a new line of thing to consider.
So I think we are. And sorry to interrupt you here, Carl, but I think we all are in agreement, right? That yeah, this is a new line of work, of business. But we're trying to get the format is what we're trying to focus on, and I think that by mixing a panel and a career fair, I think they're two very different kind of formats, right? To get a panel would entail getting like experts in kind of different fields of art within our community, which and then like Emily said, kind of get them on the same schedule. As opposed to a career fair, we would get and this is kind of within our scope in this committee to generate employment, right? For people who are looking for employees, or people who are looking for jobs in this field, right? So it kind of goes in hand with both of the scope of this event and the scope of this committee. Now, I don't know if necessarily also the scope of like having experts talk about different forms of art, specifically now comedy will generate one, the traffic, and two is I kind of seeping outside the focus of this committee. Now, and I want to hear from others. I think that having a career fair will prove beneficial for the community, but I don't know. Maybe we can do a panel, but it's going to take lots of planning. Is what I'm trying to get to.
A panel is not. A panel is not going to take a lot of planning. If one,
hold on, Carl. Hector had his hand up.
Yes, I totally agree. And usually most events that have the joint effort of the panel and the career fair is usually a day-long session. And I doubt we're planning to do a day-long session. But Carl, if you don't mind me asking, what originated this idea or this event? Was it people reaching out to you saying that they wanted this? And also, do you think that this will drum up the same amount of attention that marijuana has, because you kind of correlate the two to being outside the parameters of a typical business that's along our purview, but I don't think comedy generates enough, I guess, business or interest as marijuana.
Actually, it does. It's the pop culture today is dominated by comedy. I mean, you almost can't go anywhere today without talking about comedy, whether it's in the political space or in the business space. So, I mean, it excites people. It brings you.
Carl, I'm sorry. Let me clarify. In our specific community, that's what I forgot to.
I mean, everywhere really. I mean, our community, we don't live under the rock. We don't live under some rock or in a cave. We live in New York, for instance, the hub of entertainment and comedy and stuff. This is cool stuff. I mean, it depends on who you bring on there. We could have, if we expand it enough, if you're looking for like interest in people, you could have like, apart from the panel, you could also have, like something I know some folks have done before. You could bring some comedians to like, give some maybe 20 or 30 minutes of comedy performance to gin up the crowd. I mean, that alone would excite a lot of people and bring a lot of traffic to the event. And then the panel would sit down and talk about this. Both comedy owners, comedy school owners,
Here's what I implore that you do, right? Because I think just seeing the rebuttal from Hector and Emily, I think that we would need some like true traction for this event, right? So if you are able to kind of gather up some or speak to a comedy club owner in the community, and I don't see that we have any, because I'm trying to remember if we have I don't think we do a comedy club, either a comic club or a comedian himself come and kind of somebody who has a notoriety and kind of is famous, or in the general sense in the community, to come and vouch for the popularity of this event. Now, I encourage you to reach out to people who kind of will also attend this event, because I feel like you just want to narrow in to comedy. And although I do agree that comedy is very popular, I don't know if by narrowing it, you're kind of doing, and the amount of planning that is going to take, I don't know if you're doing justice to the other you know, fields. But I do think that we need to just like find out if this has enough traction in order to create and put resources into creating an event like this.
Sorry, what
Yep.
kind of resources? Let me even ask, what kind of resources could you put behind this?
Just general time, the interest of the community, like just marketing, kind of telling people about it, right? Because you don't want to just create this event and have no one show up or very few people. But I feel like this does have potential if we widen the scope. But an event like this is going to take time to plan, and also is going to take time to attend and time to kind of invite these guests and kind of line up their schedules. So I think we would need to see like maybe a specific comedian that wants to host something like that to kind of create a network around them and bring people that he knows and comedy club owners that he knows or she knows, to kind of create this event, because I just to show traction in this event, and kind of get the ball rolling. All right. If it is truly just the comedic portion that you want in this event.
I had look, the way when I talked about it, and then when I sold Francisco on the idea, it was mostly comedy. But if you want to broaden the scope, well, that can be done as long as it can be fit within the theme. This has to have some kind of theme. Otherwise, it would just be like, I don't know, some community jamboree or whatever. I mean, it has to have some theme. But if
the theme that I was thinking, and then we're gonna move the agenda along. The theme that I was thinking about is job creation, right? Job and employment. That's the theme that I was going with. Employment for people who are looking for employees and people who are looking for jobs. That I think was what's within our scope as a committee to help facilitate that in our community. That was I as a career fair. That's I think the central theme. And I think that I don't think that that's what you're looking for.
actually, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. It's just we're thinking about it in a different way, but we can always we can try to harmonize our thinking on this for sure.
Yeah, I think maybe something off. We could do this outside.
Okay.
And maybe we need to, maybe we'll need to organize our thoughts a little bit outside of the committee to kind of formalize this idea, but definitely broadening the scope and doing as career fair, I think is probably but we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else has anything to chime in on this? And I apologize for continuing this, but I really wanted to give Carl a platform to kind of, expand on this idea. Anybody has anything else that they want to speak about this on? Okay. All right, great. So let's move the agenda, some housekeeping items. So for April, and I know it's getting late. So for April, is anybody in the land use committee? I just want to talk to you about some scheduling things.
How's it
Yeah,
going,
go ahead.
Joel? I'm aside from the business development committee, I'm also part of the land use committee with Wayne.
So next month you might have a conflict because there's in the executive meeting they were moving some things around because of some observance. So I just need you to, I don't know how you'll kind of get around that, because I know they haven't finalized the schedule, but I know that land use and business development might land on the same day. But if there's any votes happening on the land use, I'd rather you go there than here. But the schedule hasn't come out
Understood.
yet. It should come out. It should come out within the next couple days. But we'll
Okay.
touch base outside of this. But I think there is going to be a vote on land use, so I much rather you be on that than the other one, than this one.
Understood. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah. Just wanted to, say that to you. So, another thing on the agenda that I wanted to speak about, and this will be, this is an ongoing project for me, for us. It's a lot. It's a lot to do. Just because I'm working with the chair to come up with a format. Before we start listing, not-for-profits or organization, I'm talking about the business resource guide. It's a project that is going to involve all of us. So what I want to do right now is, and maybe we can have someone, maybe you, Hector, kind of list these for me.
Of course.
Just yell out, and throw out some names so we can get a list started on not-for-profits that are helping our community. So I'll start. So I have, and Hector, you could write some down. So I have UMass, right? So that's
Wait, give me one
one
second. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me just pull up my computer.
Let me know when you're ready.
Of course. All right. You say UMass, right?
Yes. So that's the Upper
Okay.
Manhattan Empowerment Zone.
I'm not sure. Does NIMIC help business owners as well?
Say it again.
Does NIMIC, the Northern Manhattan Improvement Community, something like that, does it help businesses as well? NIMIC?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes. So we have also cloth. Cloth is a huge one. You guys know of cloth, right?
Can you also, Joel, when you say names, can you say what the acronyms also mean?
Yeah, it's the community. I have the. Sorry, 1 second.
No, not either.
And when I look these up, so it's the community. Sorry.
League of the Heights.
Yeah, of the Heights. Thank you. Community League of the Heights.
I know BID, the Business Improvement District.
The Business Improvement District, yes. We have the Sherman Creek, Sherman's, excuse me.
The Sherman Creek Association, Merchant Association.
Yes, Merchant Association. Yes, thank you, Hector. Any other mouse, so Hector can list them, please. Jermina, Mancita, you guys have any organizations that are helping Washington Heights?
No, they've been listed. Like NIMIC, I would have said, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just looking down my list.
You
here.
guys, I don't know much about this, but I am Googling. I don't know if if that helps.
That's
but
good. That's good. Yes, Google is our friend, I believe. That's
Washington Heights and Inwood Development Corporation, is that anything familiar to you?
No, I've never heard of it. But let's list it. Why not? Let's list it. So this is the purpose, right? Like the purpose of this business resource guide is that I think that you see, like Google is great, right? But as a person in the community, I want to come to the business development because I'm an entrepreneur and I need help developing my business. And who more to help than organizations doing just that? So I think the more research we do and the better we formulate this, and create a pamphlet, it'll be great. So anything that you Google, let's put it on this list. I think this small work is gonna help us substantially. So you can send me the list. I'm working on a format with the chair. So that's why we haven't compiled the list. But Hector, what we have so far, just send it to me, and once we start
Okay.
working on the outline, I'll start putting it a little by little as we go. Okay.
Okay.
Um.
Understood.
So, anybody want to add to that?
Do we know of any like organizations that connect people with like employment, like both like
Workforce One. We had them present in January, I believe. So we can put that Workforce One.
because we want to also provide we want this, I guess, document that's going to be allowed to impact as many people as possible. So not only the businesses, but the people who inhabit the businesses, like the employees as well, to connect them.
Agreed, and not only just that, but also legal services. Um, right, legal services, funding, um, development, right, in terms of business plans, financials, developing financials, right, accounting, right. So all of this is necessary to run a business. Um, so you can also put down. I know this is a government agency. You could put the SBS, Hector, in the list you're gonna send me, just because I
Yes.
know that they have.
I know
They
I know
help.
they're very active with the restaurants in the Washington Heights and inland section of Manhattan.
So any aspects? What other aspects do you guys think that, right? I said legal services, employment, funding. Those are main things that a businesses need to run. So and there's definitely organizations that are out there doing this. Um, as we go, month by month, developing this, it's gonna. I promise it's gonna take form, right? Eventually, right? So we just have to get it all on paper and then organize it.
Right.
So, all right. So, send me the list that you have, and then we'll go forward. And that I see outside, I'll put it on that list. Also, so we'll move the agenda along. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys about, is next, probably in April, or rather probably in May. Well, we're going to talk about a resolution. Has anybody heard of the Libristas?
No.
I
No?
have, yeah.
Okay. Talk to me.
Mm.
Let's hear it from Emily.
Okay. So they're a mostly worker-led organization of people that work in I forgot what the term is, but it's just like people that do delivery people. And the only capacity that I've been in contact with them is through my organization. I work in a nonprofit, New York Committee for Occupational Safety and Health. And we do a Workers' Memorial Day every year of all of the deaths that have occurred for delivery workers due to the lack of protections for them, for many reasons, whether it be the weather, cars not being like considerate of them in the streets, signage not being appropriate in certain streets, not having like a little hub for them whenever they're like waiting for the next call. So there's like a plethora of reasons that we like that we are in contact with them. But sometimes I think in the past, my organization, because I just like joined them, they would give safety and health trainings for them. But that's all
Yeah.
I know about them. I don't know much
So
about
so
anything else.
the organization is Los Libristas Unidos, right? And there is a part of the federal infrastructure bill, and with Chuck Schumer, is the Workers' Justice Project, and they have what they've done is allocated funds to convert old newspaper stands that are owned by the city to charging stations, resting stations, and this was brought to light because during the pandemic, when kind of like orders from home started increasing, obviously more drivers were needed, and uh, there were no places where they can rest and charge their batteries. Apart from that, there's a growing number of fires being started because of these lithium batteries being charged at home, right? So part of the plan with the Workers' Justice Project is to kind of like create these newspaper stands and create charging stations and resting spots. And not only that, so we as the community board, we're going to offer a suggestion to not just DOT, but the Parks Department and different departments in the city, is to create more spots than just newspaper stands, right? There's pay phones, there's spots that are not being utilized in the parks that can offer charging services to these people who are making deliveries that need spaces to charge their batteries. We're going to work with this with the Public Safety Committee and Eliezer, which is the old chair, to draft up a resolution to send to these departments, because we really want this, right? If we really think about it, if you ever stand in front of a McDonald's or the Chick-fil-A on 181st Street, you see the sheer number of delivery people that are in our neighborhood. We need it in our neighborhood, and I don't know if we're gonna have one, but we're gonna urge our government to kind of put these in our neighborhood. Not only does it help them, but it also creates businesses. Generates cash flow for our businesses. It's gonna increase orders. Orders are gonna be better because obviously they're charged. They're able to rest, and it's also going to create contracts for other people to build these stations. So it's definitely something that's good and will thrive and make our business develop here in Washington Heights. So it's something that we're going to work on with the Public Safety Committee, and we're going to draft a resolution and we're going to present it to you guys. We'll talk about it and what you guys think should be in it. And I want you guys to start thinking about this. I spoke to Carmen de la Rose, and this is something big on her agenda. I know it's kind of, I think it is federally funded, but it trickles down to her, to the city. So, guys, I want you guys to start thinking about what some ideas of where these charging stations could be, right? Like, I mean, newspaper stands are good, but we have a lot of them, and maybe one is not enough in our neighborhood. So what do you guys think? And then we can, move forward with this. What do you guys think? Any ideas?
I think the hubs don't have to be big. You know how like in the streets where the lights are, how there's like a little bench area in between. What do you call this? It's like when you're crossing the street and then there's like a little grass patch in the center that separates uptown and downtown. And then there's like a bench area right there. So maybe
Yeah.
that area, because sometimes or most times, sometimes it's just residents that are sitting there. Sometimes I see homeless people, but sometimes it's empty. Sometimes I do see delivery people sitting there. So maybe there we could put like charging stations, maybe in between even the green area. if some of them are big enough. Obviously, I think if you're trying to construct that, it would cost money, but if it's just in like the little bench areas or in other like bigger areas, depending on the configuration, how narrow the streets are, I think we would like have to do some kind of a community mapping and walking around and being like, I think this area would be good for it. But if you cross the street next time, you'll see there's always like a little bench area between uptown and downtown. And there could be a little station there for every like one of those.
Oh, I see. You're talking on Broadway.
Yeah.
On Broadway particularly. From like I think 170 is to about 155. There's like a bench areas in the middle of the street. Okay, yeah. Potentially something like that can be included in our resolution. Anybody else has some ideas that I can take to Eliasel and kind of speak to this? No. Cool. Okay. So I will let you guys know when we're gonna do it. I think it probably be next month where we'll do the meeting together. But I'll let you know. But that's something the business development doesn't really usually do resolutions. So I really wanted to kind of get a hold of this because it really will impact our local businesses. Okay, any old business? Well, new business. Any new business? Okay, and I have one new business. So in the beginning of, I'm also, as I learned to be chair, I'm trying to structure our meetings a little bit different. So in the beginning of the next meeting, what I want to do, and I want you guys all to do, is invite local businesses that have announcements or that they're doing projects that they're working on to come in the beginning of the meeting and have a 2-minute a presentation or a 2-minute kind of like speech of what they're working on, just so we can give a platform to our local businesses. So that's what I'm going to implement in the committee. In the first minute, the first half of the committee meeting, that's what we'll do. Give kind of that platform. So something new that I'm going to test out. I know they do it in other committees. We'll see how that works. Okay. Any old business?
Actually, this is not old business, but just before we leave, I mean, we are all busy. I mean, I don't know what to do, but I'm very busy. I'm a trial lawyer, actually. I'm in court all the time and stuff, but so I don't have a lot of time to get into extracurriculars. But it would be nice to have some time to talk with you, like offline, about this idea, to develop it, so we can like come to a fairly workable understanding of where we're going with this. So maybe you and I and Francisco is like on the same page with me on this, but you're kind of you think of it a bit differently. So we need to like harmonize our position on this. So is there a good time to like touch base with you?
Yeah, we'll touch base offline. We'll call and I brought it to the committee and we kind of maybe me, Emily, and Hector. We're just trying to formulate or grasp this idea, but we'll touch base offline, like we said, and we'll kind of get a structure together. But
together, to present to the committee and have them weigh in again, like they did today. So
for sure. Just some old business. The MRTA still submit some public comments. I know there's a medical task force, marijuana task force that is being created by the board or is already created. But there's still a public comment section for the MRTA. So if you have your opinions and want to input on the MRTA, now is the time to do it. So yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Anybody want a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Yep, my motion.
I second.
All right.
I'll second it as well.
At 8:59, thank you so much for everyone. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, everyone.